Molteni. I'm a partner of the office Molteni Architects based in Milan. I want to thank first of all Mr. Pizziconi to invite me to the summer school, which I really enjoy, and I thank you all the students to be here tonight. My presentation is about the office, and as I said, I'm an architect, and I'm basically an architect who spends time in the office and doing projects and following works. And my personal interest in writing or teaching is a secondary tool, and basically we are concentrating our work in the office. I was talking about geometry, and I want to translate the text, which I found very interesting to me. It's a text written by Albert Einstein, and he said, we celebrate ancient Greece as the beginning of a science in Western. There, for the first time, it has been created a system, a rational system, wonder of the thinking. That was the Euclidean geometry. That work, admirable work of the intellect, gives to the human brain the biggest faith, the biggest confidence for its next steps. Who in its early years has not felt enthusiasm, exciting for this work of Euclidean geometry, is not born to be a scientist, and I would say is not born to be an architect. So back to this geometry, which is the main tool we have in our work. As we learn alphabet or grammar or syntax to express through words our ideas, so we learn geometry to express through drawings our ideas in architecture. So we start to learn descriptive geometry by doing some very simple exercises, like this to make a triangle by using one tool, compasses, and by doing only 3 movements. Or we go on and we learn more things, more complex, and we start to use our imagination in the space. We start to imagine lines, straight lines going through the space. We start to think with our rational part of the brain, and to imagine these lines or geometrical shape in the space. And through these exercises, we start to be confident in knowing what's going on. And so if we read a statement or an exercise text, then we feel that we can make it ourselves, and that we can make it right. When we start to imagine that this mental space has a light coming from somewhere, so it gives to the volumes a kind of more concrete presence. And we get lost in these very complex drawings, which have very straight rules. They have their own law, and we understand that through these rules we can get to the end of an exercise. But I think geometry is not about rules that doesn't allow to have imagination. It's opposite, it's the contrary. And I always see these two drawings, which is this one and this piece of art by Max B, as coming from the same culture, which is based on geometry. And if you look at this painting, you can see that on the right top there is a text explaining the exercise, and the exercise is done. And by modifying only the width and the edge of the triangular shapes, you get to draw a new shape. And by using different lines which are thicker or thinner, using only black and white, you can build up your own work of art. So geometry is the contrary of is able to give us the possibility to express ourselves in an aesthetical way and an artistic way, as this piece of art shows us, or this more famous one, which is the 15 variation, is probably known by you as well. So what we like to do in our job as architect is to make plans. And again, a plan is a kind of abstract writing, which is for us giving a lot of information in a very simple and a very direct way. And if you imagine when you start to study architecture and you read a book of history, then you find plans like these plans, and you find a text and some few images of a space or a facade. But by reading the plan, we are able to imagine with our own rational intellect. We can read the space, we can feel the space, we can imagine as much as a musician could do with a pentagram or a mathematician could read an algebraic writing. So our plans are our own realm. This is a plan of a town hall, which is 1,000 square meters, completely portico, completely open, and the ceiling is covered with ceramic tiles, and you see there is very few elements of the structure, and it's all open. So by these few informations, we are able to imagine the space and to imagine its architecture. This is a house made of two identical shapes, but rotated one to each other on a diagonal line. And this house is all made in bricks, and it has a pitched roof. And inside is all white and outside is completely bricks, also the roof, and glass. This is a military camp. This is a school made of glass and wood structure on the perimeter without any corridor. So classrooms are connected without corridors through 2 staircases. This is a house on 3 levels, with which each floor has a different relation to the exterior, to the landscape. This is another house I will show later, and this is a house with a 45 pitched roof. So we love plants, and then we love to control the body of architecture, which is represented here by models, which always are made on wood, timber, and same scale and same wood, and they represent the essential shape of a project. It's a house, it's another house. And third issue is materiality, because as we believe in its architecture is the unity, and each project trying to deal only with one material, and this representation of a facade tells us that there is not a facade which is more important than other, but it's the whole body of the architecture which is consistent. And in this case it's made out of bricks. In this case it was white concrete, or white resin, or red bricks, or concrete, or this is made out of stones, or concrete again. So now we can look through some projects after these introductions, which I find, let's say, enough to have a discussion. But as I want to go on to show some projects, and you can look at this project through this introduction. And I will not make comments to all the project because it's too long. You will recognize some of the plans. This is the town hall in a city center. This is a resort in Thailand, in the Phuket Island. It's a project which is made in 2 parts. One is the apartments, and the other one is the restaurant and lounge bar. And it's made of 2 bodies, same shape but twisting each other. And so you have a space, a courtyard, which has high walls, and a courtyard which has low walls to define the space, the opposite of the space. Yes, you can see in the plan sections. This project was made all in metal construction. one project of housing, which has interesting development because of the economical price. We started with a very simple principle to repeat the same buildings, and then because of a new price situation, they decided to change the typologies, but the scheme is still the same. And as you see here, it's mostly the same houses repeated. And the plan is not a plan of one single element, but it's a plan which is a whole, a unity again, made of 11 different volumes. And again, one detail which we believe that every project has one main detail. It's not about making a lot of details, it's about to understand which is the most important detail of each project. And this is the plan with a new definition of different typologies. This project is almost finished. It's dogs and cats housing. It's a place where abandoned animals are kept. And it started to be a modular project, a repetition of a single unity to make a variation. And this is the final unity, a very simple. Of course, it has to be very simple, with a place where they stay, inside and outside, and the repetition of this modular element in wood is making a complex of 4 pavilions and one main building, service building, and the 4 pavilions are twisted 45 degrees, one to each other, and create a central space. But also they have one central space each as a courtyard that is the courtyard for the dogs or the courtyard for the cats. And this strong geometry you can see here in the foundations, or this strong 100 meters long wall of the building, service building. Courtyard for the dogs, courtyard for the cats, and this recent image. And of course we exercise a lot of competitions, which is a way to produce architecture, to produce ideas, and to keep the brain on exercise. And won this competition, which is interesting because it's a house for builders, which is a place where builders learn how to build. So the project deals with materiality and process of construction, and we decided to use 2 very basic and very old materials, which are bricks, a small piece of bricks, and concrete. And buildings are 2 buildings, but they make a unity. And one building is a school, and one building is an atelier to learn how to build. But they are all made out of concrete. One is one single wall with no insulation, and the other building is 2 walls with insulation. So the buildings outside and inside are both same materials, and the courtyard is covered by bricks, as you can see on the plans. This is the atelier, and this is classrooms, all made out of concrete. And these two projects are in Switzerland, or maybe projects in Switzerland had a first prize and some other prizes in Bern. It was a housing project along the railway line, and we could win the project because of the urbanistic idea, which deals with the linearity of the railway lines and the rhythm of the city, of a future city which would be built afterwards. So we have this very simple plan with the staircase in between the two slabs, and the slabs are completely free, so that could be used as office or housing, and divided in different ways, like this one, for example. For the students' housing in Zurich, and the idea was how to make 3 buildings with 1 window, and the buildings are cubic buildings, and the windows is going to go around the 4 facade in a way that there is not a fundamental facade, but it's all 4 facades are equal. And this is the unity of the student room with a big window, and this window is prefab and it goes around the corner in this way, so that there is no principal facade, and also the structure is twisting all around. And the parking building, which has been made with a courtyard, and the parking is all in ramps going up and down with a 3%. Going up makes a spiral, and the courtyard where people walk to go to the car, and the slabs and pillars are 3 degrees all inclinated, and the roof also is not flat, so that the water will come down in the courtyard, and the light is also coming down as in a palazzo. Our school complex in Bern, where we established just one system of construction based on this element of wood. It's all in wood, and it's the superposition of the same structure which makes the buildings and the facade. And this is modular element, structural element, plan, and plan I showed before and repeat. And this is also another competition won in Milan for the Expo 2015, and it's all these small slabs buildings are meant to be made by one system of construction, and we propose to make this grid of 5 meters, but by using not a square, but using these shapes, by twisting the pillars, we could make a structure made of out of wood that doesn't need to have any supplementary element horizontal forces like walls or concrete walls to make it work. And then there was for the Biennale in Venice 2 years ago a call for papers, and it was about 50 different architects should have collect about 40 photocopies of something, which was divided in pyramids for me, and some other had hospitals or house of bricks or whatever. And every architect had to make a research. So I started with the research of pyramids in the history, but also, of course, you could start to see pyramids whenever and wherever, and you could start to see also a bridge. You can see a bridge in Genoa. It's Morandi Bridge on the right bottom, which looks like a pyramid, of course, and other buildings like Pulzic or even Casa Malaparte start to be a pyramid, or of course we can, or fantastic project by many different architects. Even this Sprengeri is a fantastic pyramid, or these two Swiss architecture, Herzog, Demeron and Petersunter. And then after that we had a competition in Germany, and it was about making a museum, and we ended up to make this proposal of a building which has not a pitched roof, but it's a kind of pyramid, because we started to have this idea of a big roof, but then we could see that it was not working very efficiently, and instead a kind of wedding cakes like this drawing can show is, or candles, they show that spaces could be lightened by the roof, and they could go and grow from the bottom to the top. So this is the building shape outside. This is the skylight, and the plants that are growing from top to bottom, and the 8 of the rooms were asked to be different. So at the end we have an addition of spaces, one on top of each other, with different light conditions and different space dimensions, and that was the image of the interior spaces of the museum. And then, as you could see, that from the beginning, a very important aspect in our work is houses, just because we had a chance to make projects, and we made about 10 different projects of houses. And here I show you some of these projects. It's my very first project close to Genova. It's a house which was reused, an old building, and with a funny, very strange geometry, and all the work was about making this staircase with a complex geometry, and the facade also with this stucco and white marble, which are quite common in this area, as you have seen. And it's a project of details, and this is the staircase from below and from top. Then a house which was for us quite important. It's a house between two buildings, one by Giuseppe Ferrani and one by Asaro Bender, which are these two buildings. And the house was, from the beginning, was two different bodies, but same shape. And in doing by this work in geometry, plan, and section, we ended up with a different configuration, which was working fine in relation to the trees, and in relation to make a courtyard, which was the entrance, where a garage is also placed, and another courtyard where the swimming pool was placed. And this is a plan, and this is the main details of the building, made out of bricks. And you see the image of the construction. We didn't put any cement between the bricks because it's these walls and the roof are just the finishing. It's not structural walls. So we didn't want to show this. We wanted to have only bricks, and we could use a kind of glue and have only one materiality on the facade, which is together with glass, making the body of the building, as you can see in this image. Inside. This project is quite simple. It's a double L, one on top of the other, and this double L is based on a schematic plan, and it's a L-shaped space on the bottom, and the bedrooms on the top. And this is the common space on bottom. The house in Korea with a pentagonal plan. And then this house is close to Roma. And it's made of tufo, which is a very nice stone, has been used a lot by Romans, and it's a very cheap material. And the idea is to make a house very all in tufo and with a pitched roof in a diagonal situation because of the low of the site. And you can see the building is the structure is in steel, and the stone, the tufo is all in the walls and on the roof. And the final project is a house again for a friend who is the director, who needs to have a second house for himself, for his sister, and this second house has to be very practical, not expensive, and that could permit to be used by him with his guests, and separately by his sister and family, but they need to have a common space. And the story started with a text that this guy wrote as a director to imagine what is a house for him, and he made a script. And through this script we start the discussion, and for him it was a possibility to see how you make a project in architecture, and for us it was a good situation to discuss with someone else, intellectual person making film, and try to see how the process works in both situations. And this site still have very important trees, very high trees, and there was a logic in the trees plantation, which was that there were groups of different trees in the garden, and there was 3-4 different groups of trees. And the idea of the house was to be in the center of the garden, and from the main space that you could have a perception of the garden which is different from side to side due to the trees. So the plan is a kind of a star configuration with a common and central space. You can see in some sketches, and through this development of the shape of a house. And this is a conceptual, very simple model showing that is 4 different volumes with an empty space in common, and the empty space is the space in between the trees. This is under construction. This is the common space in between the trees, and the roof in between the trees that was meant to have no elements for the rainwater, no canals and no gutters, to avoid any maintenance of the building. You see the plan between the trees, and that is geometry is arbitrary, but at the same time the place where they put furniture were very simple, because they had to put furniture from second houses or from IKEA or whatever, but simple furniture not designed by architects, and so the rooms had to be very simple and quite generous. But at the same time there was a rule, and the rule was the inclination of the roof. It was 7%, because of the water, rainwater had to flow down, to go down from the roof to the ground directly, and the slope had to be not too much, not too less, to permit to let the water going down. So you will have walls that they don't have, never have water coming down, and walls that have water coming down from the roof to the ground. And there was only one line which is horizontal, which is this line, and all the rest of the building, as you can see in this drawing, is not controlled. There is not a measure. It's not possible to make a measure of this facade. wanted to make these pictures, which are not, let's say, true. They are a mental picture because they make the house as in the drawing of the facade, which is one continuous facade instead of one facade, especially these images. Or through the interior of the main space also, trying to walk through the building from one facade to the other facade, and here you can see 3 of the 4 big openings to the garden, and again the other 3 openings of the garden. And the main space, an empty space, I also showing these images because it's compared to the exterior, which is white, it was a kind of very light gray, but very calm and warm. And all the detail of the construction is about how to make a window that when the water is coming down from the roof, it doesn't make the glass dirty. So we place it outside the wall, and we make a kind of small canal over the window. See the house. When it's finished, and now it was finished. The concrete was waterproof, and then finished by the resin, white resin, because there was a law we had to use white, and the white resin was all over the building. And here you can see some images that we took after a while, and you see that some of the facades are white, but some start to be dirty by what the trees are depositing on the roof. And by this slight slope of the roof, we could see that the water was coming down very slowly, and by this slowliness, I would say the lines that comes down the facade makes this kind of texture, which we find very natural and very calm. Now I show you a video. If I can. Grazie mille.
There are questions. First, I'd like to thank as a teacher every teacher that was here, and do you have questions or say this evening? And thank you again, Enrico Molteni, and everyone that was here.